Good morning, children. Today our topic is body movements. So movements are very important for an animal, right? So what is the link between an animal and the movement? How movements help the animals, right? Now let us find the basic connection. So we are calling the organisms that can move from place to place or animals, the organisms that are still or plants. So we take one specific feature to distinguish between plant and animal. Animals can move from place to place, most of the animals, right? So you know that the term any from the animals, any means motion, movement, life. So movement is observed in living things at all levels, right? So you are sitting still, you are not moving, just you are sitting still, rock still. Even then you can observe some kind of movements in you. There are so many movements happening inside your body. So many materials are being circulated through your blood circulatory system. The gases are being transported or exchanged. And even at the cellular level, inside the cell, so many movements are taking place at the molecular level. There is a movement of molecules inside your cell, isn't it? So movements are found in each and every living organism, including plant and animal. But in animal, you see the movements not only inside, not only the cellular movements, not only the internal movements, even the external movements. Of course, you may try to sit still for some time. It's 1 or 2 minutes. You can't sit like that without breathing. You will be giving some movement here. So movement of your chest, ribs. So by that you can breathe. You can't sit still without breathing for a long time. So you may be moving your eyes. If you are asked to stay still without closing your eyes, how much time you can? Only a few seconds. Then you have to close your eyes. You have to blink your eyes. Right. So suddenly you found one ant crawling on your back or on your hand. Immediately with a jerk you move. So we can't stop the movements in our body, right? So movements help the animals in what ways? How the movements help the animals? The movements help the animals to search their food. The first most important functioning, that is the necessity of movement, is searching for food. Animals, they move from place to place in search of their food. So for that they need movement. Second thing is for protection. Protection. Why does a deer run so fast? Because it has to protect itself, right, from the tiger or lion which is chasing it. So protection is an aspect. Some robber, some thief, some dacoit, somebody is chasing you, you'll be running. So running to protect yourself. So protection is one more requirement, one more aspect for which you need movements. The third one, reproduction. So every organism, it wanted to produce the species of its own kind, that is reproduction, producing the babies. So for that, the animals need to move. So that is the necessity of movements, external movements. Right, okay? And not only that, you need movements in your body just to eat your food, bend your body, run, pick something, ride something, see at something, do something. You need movements all over your body. Right? So that is the importance of movement. So all animals, they move from place to place by different means of movement, right? So movement is common in all the organisms in moving from place to place. But what kind of movement it is different, right? You are not flying in the sky as a human being, just you are walking with your legs. You are walking on your 2 legs. Whereas you see a dog, a cat, a cow, a buffalo, 4 legs. It walks on its 4 legs, right? You see a lizard, it crawls, it uses its hands and it puts its stomach on the ground and slowly it crawls. and you see kangaroo galloping, hops, it hops, right? And you see a horse, and you see a tiger, lion, see a bird, see a fish, it swims with its fins, bird flies with its wings. So cockroach, it crawls and it flies with the wings. Frogs, they jump, they hop, right? So this way we find that different animals, they have different ways of movement because their moving organs are different. So you can put a question, why can't the snake just walk like a human? Because snake do not have limbs like humans to walk, absence of limbs. So snake, it slithers, right? So why can't a lizard run like something else, like a rat? Because the lizard, it has a body very heavy and its limbs are very weak. So only it can just crawl. So that is the difference. So here we have to identify that different animals, they have different kinds of movement. So the type of movement they choose depends upon their body parts. So it all depends upon the parts that they use for the movement. Some use wings, some use legs, right? Some use their body scales like snake, earthworm, they use their body scales to move on the ground. Some animals have got very strong legs and some have very weak legs. So depending upon all these factors, they have different kinds of movement. Let us mention what are the movements. Some animals, they walk like humans, they walk, crawl, creep, slither, fly, swim, right? So hopping, they hop, they jump, so many ways. So now let us talk about the movements in human body, right? So human body is our body. In our body we have movements. We are able to perform so many things. Have you ever seen Olympics? They are the athletes performing different tasks. So to do so, they use their limbs, hands and legs, right? So human body, it's a very flexible design. We have so many joints that enable us to produce movement in different directions. So by that you can achieve so many tasks, right? So here we have the skeleton. That means how the bones are arranged in our body. So you know the skeleton is the internal framework of your body. So that is the internal frame on which all the organs, muscles, skin, everything is arranged, packed on the base. What is the base? That is the skeleton. Now let us identify the joints, the location of the joints, at which places in our body we have joints, and what are those joints, and what is their function? Actually, what kind of movement or rotation they allow. Let us identify some joints here. Let us see some important joints. There are so many joints in our body. Just we're talking about the important ones, right? So here we have a joint, that is a joint between our skull and the neck, the head and neck. There is a joint in the neck. We find some joint in the shoulders. Here we have some joint with the hands. The hands are attached to the frame here at this point, right? So here I give number 2. Here we have joints 3, and here we have joint, and again here we have a joint, here we have a joint, here we have a joint. So all these are joints. As I told you that there are so many joints in our body, but we are discussing about a few which are very important, especially which are placed in our hands and legs, that is in the limbs. Now see, in the human body we find these joints. Let us discuss about each joint and their function and their flexibility. You can try some motions before we discuss what are these joints and their functions and structure. We can see, just look at your body. Right. Now you see that how much movement is allowed in each part of your body, in your hands and legs. Just you can feel like you are throwing a ball. Now you are the bowler. You are playing for the cricket team. So now take a ball and throw the ball, right? Or observe a bowler, how he bowls the ball. You can see the bowler, he takes the ball in his hand and he rotates his hand completely. You can see the rotation, right? So the hand is getting rotated, at which point it is rotated at this particular point. So what is the angle of rotation? 360 degrees. Right. So that means this particular joint, it allows 360 degrees. So now the bowler decided not to use this joint. He wanted to use only this joint to rotate 360 degrees. Is it possible to rotate 360 degrees? So as he is rotating from here, he wanted to rotate only at this point. He wanted to turn the lower half of the hand circular. Is it possible? No, only till here. Then there is no more movement here. It is stuck over here. You can open your hand till here, that's all. You cannot bend the lower arm till down. You may break the joint. So that is why where you can observe that certain joints are limited up to certain angle. They cannot be turned more. They cannot be moved further, right? So you are doing your jobs with your hands. You are lifting something. You are keeping something at some height. You are rotating something. You are pushing something. So in all these cases, you can see that you can feel the limitation of your joint till what extent it is allowing you to move, right? So there you can find some difference in the movement. So that we can observe here. At this particular point, you can see the hand, you can rotate it 360 degrees. But whereas at this particular point, number 3, you can't do that. Just you can bend only up to some extent. That's all. Right? And even your neck, you can see, you can just slide like this. But you cannot turn your head 360 degrees as like your hand. It's not possible. And you cannot do at this particular point at your knees. You can just bend your legs. But again at this point, at this particular point, at number 5, you can rotate your leg to maximum extent. Right? So now, let us go to that, labeling the names of these particular joints. Right? So location, it's clear to you. You can see that where they are located in your body. So now let us see what are these joints. As I told you earlier, in our body, we have different types of joints. Mainly there are two kinds, fixed joints, movable joints. Here we are talking about the movable joints. Movable joints. So what is the other type? It is fixed joints. Okay, we'll talk about the fixed joints later. Now let's see the movable joints. The movable joints, here I have given the number and I have shown the location where the movable joints are placed in our body. Right? So here, the joint that is found between the head and neck is pivot joint. So it is a kind of movable joint, pivot joint. So the pivot is like a point on which another part of the joint is fixed. So by that it can rotate like this. So that is a pivot. I can draw a simple diagram to show that, say, if this is the object. Now you can see that this is one particular part of this joint. This is part A, part B. So now see that part B is resting on A and it is allowed to rotate up to some extent. You can rotate your head. You can bend your head. You can rotate your head. So up to some extent. So that is allowed by the pivot joint. Right? The next one is the number 2, it is the ball and socket joint. Ball and socket. So ball and socket, what is this ball and socket? Why it is called as ball and socket? Because the shape of the joint is like a ball in a socket. This particular point, that is at the shoulder, if you zoom it and see that, there we have a socket kind of arrangement into which the bone is fixed like this. So, this is the bone which is fixed in the socket. This is the socket. This is the bone which is like a ball. So, it is called as ball and socket arrangement. This ball and socket arrangement allow the bone to rotate it up to maximum angle. You can see that I have shown you a bowler, he rotates his arm 360 degrees because this particular joint, the ball and socket joint, it allow the maximum rotation, right? So, that is found in the shoulder and it is also found at the hip region, the thigh bone. It is attached to the hip girdle by ball and socket joint. So, ball and socket joint is found in the hip as well as in the shoulder. The next one is hinge joint. Hinge joint. What is a hinge? You know the hinges of a door. Doors have hinges to open and close them. The hinges are made up of either iron, steel or brass. What do? They allow the opening movement in one direction. The hinges, just they are like opening and closing of a book. They open and close. The hinge joints are found in the elbows and in the knees. So, you see your elbow, it opens up to some extent, that's all, 180 degree. You can open your hand like this. You cannot bend your hand still further more because your hinge joint, it is allowing the movement only till here. That is a hinge joint, right? So, hinge joints are found in the elbows and knees, that is the hinge joint. So, we have some more joints. You can see the number 7 and we can see the number 4. These are sliding joints. In your hands, you have in your wrist, you have a sliding joint. Here you have a sliding joint, just it slides like that. So, all these are the movable joints, but we have some more joints which are fixed. You cannot find any movement in them. Say for example, you are talking and you are eating, you are moving your mouth, you are opening your lower jaw. You are able to make some movement over here, but whereas your upper jaw you cannot move because the upper jaw is fixed in the skull. So, your upper jaw is having a joint with the skull, but it is a fixed joint. In the same way, your skull is not a single bone. Your skull is made up of so many bones. These bones are attached together. They are jointed by fixed joint. So, likewise, in your body, you have so many fixed joints, right? So, here we are discussing about the movable joints. What are the major movable joints that we find in our body are pivot joint, ball and socket joint and hinge joint, right? So, joints allow movement. So, where do we find the joints? We find the joints between the bones, the collection of bones together called as skeleton. So, the collection of bones, the framework of our body is called as skeleton. What is skeleton? Framework of our body. So, what is the major function? It has two main functions. The skeleton, it gives support and protection to our body and internal organs and it allows us to move. So, movement is possible in animals, it is because of the skeleton, right? And the support and strength to stand, to do different activities, it is possible because of the skeleton. Now, let us see some important parts of the skeleton and their functions. So, now let us see the different parts of the skeleton. I told you that skeleton is the total framework of our body. It's a complete framework. The skeleton can be divided into different parts depending upon their function, right? So, let us come from the top part of the skeleton, that is the skull. Skull is the bony structure that gives shape and support to our head. We have all the important sense organs and other important organs. The major organs like brain are there in the head right? So these are all protected by the skull. Skull gives protection to the brain. So the brain is covered by hard bony case called as skull, and even our eyeballs are located in the orbits. That means the spaces in the skull, so into the spaces our eyeballs are protected. The part of the eye that you see out is only a 10 to 20% of it. Rest of the eye is located, embedded in the eye socket, right? So like this, these organs, even our ears, these are the external ears, but we have the important part of the ear, the middle ear and inner ear, they are completely protected by the skull. So it plays a major function in the protection of soft internal organs, that is the skull. It is the topmost part. So just below the skull you find a bone extending from the skull to your waist. So it is running on your back, it is starting at the bottom of your skull and running till the end of your waist. That bone is called as backbone, that is the backbone, right? So this is the skull. So the backbone, it gives strength to your body so that you can stand erect. Otherwise it is not possible to stand erect without the backbone. The backbone is flexible and it is allowing you to bend sideways, you can bend forward, you can bend backward, you can twist your body, you can turn back. It's all possible because of the backbone. And not only that, the backbone is like a hollow pipe in which it is protecting the spinal cord. Backbone is protecting spinal cord. So spinal cord is continuation to the brain. Brain and spinal cord together, they make up the central nervous system. The nervous system is composed of brain and spinal cord. Both are protected by the skull and backbone. The next one is rib cage. This is the rib cage. So if you breathe hard, take a deep breath and just put your fingers on your chest. You can feel some cage, some hard bony structure, bony cage, that is the rib cage. The major function of this rib cage is to protect your internal organs, the heart, liver and lungs. These organs are protected by the rib cage because they are very soft and delicate. They cannot withstand the shock, they cannot withstand the blow. If somebody hits you hard, then your rib cage is protecting. Otherwise, the blow may be hitting your heart or lungs, which is very dangerous. So in that way, the protection is obtained by the rib cage. So in the internal organs like heart, lungs and liver are protected by the rib cage. So next, hands and legs. We can find the hand and leg bones. Already we have discussed about the joints here. See, you can see the hand bones. The upper hand bone is single. The lower hand, the lower part of the hand has got two bones. And at the bottom you have fingers. Each of your finger will be having so many bones. Just you can press and you can bend your fingers and you can count how many bones you have in your hand. You have number of bones, right? So even the same for both the hands and even the same for the legs. Legs also, they have, see the upper legs, they have a long strong bone, single bone. Lower leg has got two bones side by side. Here also. And at the end, your feet also consist of so many bones. Your toes also consist of so many bones. Your fingers also consist of so many bones. Just you can feel them and count them. So these are the different bones in the hands and legs. How these bones help us? These bones, they help us to protect, to defend. Somebody is falling on you, somebody is hitting you, you can defend. Something is falling on you, you can defend. You are falling on the ground, you can defend by keeping your hands down on the floor, so by that you can defend. You can see that you doesn't fall down. You are slipping, just you can catch hold of some support to stand, to run, to hit, to break something, to write something, to do something, to play something. You need hands and legs. That means you need the help of hand and leg bones. The next one is pelvic bones. So this is called as pelvis, right? So here some organs are protected. Your reproductive organs are protected. Lower part of the stomach is protected by the pelvis. So pelvis is the part which helps you to sit. You can sit on some support, that is because of the pelvis, right? So you can stand, that is because of the pelvis. So this is the bone which is giving support at the lower part of your body, right? So these are the different parts of the skeleton. What are they? Skull, rib cage, backbone, hands and legs, and pelvic bones. So let us see how the skeleton helps in the movement of our body. So skeleton alone cannot do this. We know that the skeleton is made up of bones. So bone is a kind of a hard material that make up the skeleton. Some parts of our skeleton are also made up of other materials like cartilage. So cartilage is a flexible bone. It's not as hard as the bone. Just you feel your hand, just you feel your hand bone, just feel your finger bone. It is hard enough that it is made up of bone. Whereas if you see that the hard structure of your external ear, you can press it and you can bend it, and if you leave that, it regains its original shape, that it has got the elasticity and it is flexible. It's not breaking up. But if you try to bend your hand bone, it breaks because it is rigid. But whereas here, this is flexible. Even the tip of your nose has got a separation which is made up of cartilage. So the flexible bone is called as cartilage. Bone and cartilage together make up the skeletal system, right? In the newborn babies, the bones are not hard enough. Some of the bones are still made up of cartilage, but as they grow up to infants and to kids, the cartilage, it hardens up and the bone becomes strong, right? So cartilage is the soft bone. Some of the fishes, they have only the skeleton made out of cartilage, not with bone. So that is about the bone and cartilage. Bone and cartilage cannot produce movements in your body. For example, you made a skeleton or a toy with some papers or sticks. You see that in the puppet show. In the puppet show, the toy is made and the toy hands and legs are tied to strings. The strings are given to some other person. So when a string is pulled, the hand is lifted. When a string is kept down, the hand is lifted down, kept down. That means you can observe that in the puppet show, they operate the toy with the help of strings. When a string is moved, the toy moves. It performs some action. In the same way, our skeleton is also connected with some muscles. When a muscle is contracted, either contracted or relaxed, then you can perform a task. Right. So here, the muscles, they are connected to the bones. The contraction and relaxation of muscles, it performs the task. It helps in the movement. How they are connected, with what they are connected. So the muscles are connected to the bone. I am drawing it here, the hand bone. I told you the lower hand, it has got two bones, and the upper hand, it has got the single bone. So here is your hand. So now let's see here. This is one muscle. This is one muscle. Two muscles. The muscles of your hand. The muscles are connected to the bones by tendon. So this is a material which is binding the muscle to your bone, tendons. So here we have a pair of muscles. To perform any action, that means to produce a movement, you need to have a pair of muscles. See in your hand, to open and close your hand, you need to have two muscles working, one here, one here. The uppermost muscle is called as biceps and this is called as triceps. See, the muscles, they work in pairs. They work opposite to each other. This muscle is contracting, I am lifting my hand. This muscle is contracting in the sense this muscle is expanding. One muscle is relaxing. At the same time, the other muscle contracts. So by that you can perform an action. If you wanted to produce a movement, one muscle should contract. At the same time, the opposite muscle should relax. So this kind of action helps to produce movements. So the muscles, they work in pairs. The muscles are connected to the bones by a material called as tendons. Then what is this ligament? A bone is connected to another bone by ligament. Ligament is the cementing material that joins a bone to another bone. Tendon is the cementing material, it joins the bone to the muscles. So muscles, they are the special tissues, they help in contraction and relaxation, so by that they enable us to produce movements. And you know, the cartilage and bone, they form the framework. So because of all these materials, you have a specific shape, you have a specific form, you have specific strength, you can perform the task like you can stand, you can run, you can jump, you can dance, you can do all the physical activity. It's all because of all these different items. So now we have seen how the movements are possible in case of humans. Our body is a very complex and we have very complex system, like we have bones, that is the skeleton, muscles attached to the bones, and tendons, ligaments, and all these things enable us to have a good coordinated movement to perform various tasks. Now let us see in the smaller forms, in the other animals, the smaller animals, what I mean, because in almost all the mammals the same kind of thing what we have, just like that they do have the skeleton, muscles and all. But whereas if you look at the other forms of animals, what sort of organs they have for the movement and how they achieve the movement, what kind of movement they show. Let's see. So this we call it as a gait of animals. Here we begin with the earthworm. You know the earthworm, it is found in the wet soil. Especially you see that they are coming out of the holes in the rainy season. So have you ever observed the earthworm so closely? So earthworm is a soft jelly-like organism, right? And it is very soft because it doesn't have any bones. So you have to notice the point that there are no bones. So no bones, it has only got muscles and bristles. What is that? Muscles and bristles. So where are the muscles? Muscles are there in its body. Where are the bristles? Bristles they have under the surface of their body. So with the help of these muscles and bristles, they make the movement. How does an earthworm move? So earthworm, it pushes its body forward and by that time it keeps hold of the soil with its rear portion. So if this is the earthworm, the front part is pushing, here the back part, it will catch hold in the soil with the help of bristles. Once it pushes the body forward, here it uses the bristles to catch hold of the soil. Now the front part of the earthworm is holding the soil, it releases the back part and it will contract the back part. So the back part is dragged to front. Again it will push the front part. It holds the soil and releases the back part, pushes the back part forward. In this way the earthworm, it moves forward. Earthworms, they eat the soil, they feed on the decaying soil and they convert the soil into a manure. So that is the reason earthworms are the friends of farmers. They are used to produce the vermicompost. Vermicompost is a nutritious substance that helps in the plant growth and which is organic, right? So let us go to the next one, snail. So we see a snail, as the snail is having a shell on its body. Actually it is not the skeleton, it does not help in the movement, right? It's only for protection, not for the movement. And if you keep it there, you can see that snail coming out of that. The snail is a very slippery, very smooth jelly-like organism. The snail, it has got a head-like structure and it has got one particular part, this is called as a foot of the snail. So the foot of the snail, it has got some kind of sucker kind of thing. When it is kept in some glass plate and you can observe that it sticks to the surface. And at the same time, it produces some wave kind of motion, wave. So this wave kind of motion enables the snail to slowly move on the surface. It moves very slowly. It's because of the wavy motion in the foot of the snail. Then next, look at the cockroach. Cockroaches, we know that we find in our houses. Cockroaches, do they have the skeleton? Yes, they have the skeleton, but not like the one which we have. Cockroaches, they have the skeleton outside their body. We have skeleton inside our body, right? They have skeleton outside their body. That is called as exoskeleton, skeleton outside the body, right? So they have joints which are not similar to the joints in mammals. That is a different. They have legs, jointed legs. That is why they come under the arthropoda. They are called as arthropods. It's because they have the joints and the skeleton outside their body. Even they have muscles and they have wings. Cockroaches, they can fly, they can run, they can jump with the help of these exoskeleton and muscles. So in cockroaches we find the exoskeleton. Okay. And they have jointed legs. And even they have muscles inside their bodies. They have very loose tissues. We cannot completely call them as muscles. Some tissues. That's all. Instead of muscles, you can call them as tissues. So that is the cockroach. Now let us look at the birds. Birds, they have a good internal skeletal system. They have an endoskeleton just like mammals. So in their skeleton, their bones are hollow. They have hollow bones. So by that their bodies are light. Hollow bones. So by that their bodies are very light. So many of the birds, they can fly. The flight is possible because of the light bones. They are streamlined. They have streamlined body. You see the beak and head of the bird. It is streamlined. They can cut the friction of the air and they can fly. And their forelimbs, they are modified to wings. So the bones in the forelimbs are modified to wings. They are connected to the breastbone. Their rib cage is modified into breastbone, which can hold the muscles that help in the flight. Their hind limbs, their legs they are developed in such a way so by that the bird can stand, it can walk or run, it can perch for the food. So that is, they help in walking. Strong back legs. The front limbs are modified to wings for the flight. Of course, even though certain birds, they have the wings, they cannot fly high. Depends upon their body weight and their habitat, their feeding habits. Certain birds, they can fly with the help of the wings, right? So that kind of movement is found in birds. Now let's see the body, let's see the movement in fishes. Fishes, see that they also have a streamlined body. That they means they have a snout and their body is like this. So they can cut the friction of the water, so by that they can easily move. But let us see the movement of the fish. Fishes, they swim with the help of fins, but with the help of their head and tail, they make the jerky movement. So if this is the fish, if the fish head is turning this direction and it is moving forward, so in the opposite direction, its tail moves. And when the head turns to the opposite, the tail turns to the another direction. So by that, they will give a jerky forward motion, movement. So in this way, they achieve the jerky forward motion. And with the help of the tail, it gives that jerking, pushing the water left, right, left, right. So once the tail is to the left, the head turns towards the right. The head turns towards the left, then the tail turns towards the right. So in this way, it makes a forward motion. So finally, we see that snake, how a snake slithers. We know that the snake is got a very long body, elongated body trunk, and it has got backbone also. You can see the spinal cord of the snake extending. The snake backbone is connected to the muscles and skin. So the snake, it produces a loop-like motion. So this loop-like motion and the scales below its body help the snake to move further. So it gives a loop-like, wave-like motion. So the loop is extended from, it starts at this point and the loop is extended till here, the wave. So in such a way, it slowly slithers on the ground. Of course, because of the very rapid movement, sometimes it can move very fast, not only slow. So this is how a snake slithers, right? So anyway, whatsoever the kind of movement that we observe here, the main thing that we have to notice, it is all because of the body structure and the components like muscles and bones. Of course, here we have seen that there are many organisms that are able to move without a bony structure, without the skeleton. Just with the help of muscles, they are able to make the movement, right? But whereas in case of mammals, higher animals and human beings, we have the skeleton system that is connected to the muscles, packed up with the muscles. So by that we can perform the motion, the movement and achieve so many tasks.